From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It is Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. We are both here in the Midtown offices, Tallahassee, Florida. We're employed by WarChant.com, thankfully. Thank you, Gene. WarChant.com. Use the promo code WarChant30. Get you 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. We mentioned on the program yesterday, Corey, but apparently I was still behind on our quota. So this show will be making its triumphant return to YouTube.
There we go.
So the folks on YouTube were like, what happened to you guys? We explained in yesterday's show, but you weren't around to hear that. We're available everywhere else, iTunes, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud. I mean, literally just Google Wake Up War Chant Podcast on Google and it'll pop up. But the provider that we use to host our podcast limits to it that they only will put up 60 minutes worth of content to YouTube per week, which basically means that we can only put one episode per week. But we're trying to figure out a way around that so you crazy folks can keep arguing back and forth about things when it comes to Florida State athletics. Corey, I don't know if yesterday wasn't the day. Today might be the day. Dive in. Try this new Zaxby's Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue Filet Sandwich. Giddy up and get ready. Fully loaded chicken sandwich, jam-packed with big flavors. Hand-breaded chicken filet, cheddar cheese, smoky bacon, crispy onion rings, savory barbecue sauce, and mayo. Is it on a bun or Texas toast, do you think? It's on Texas toast, Corey. Of course it's on Texas toast.
Right. Do they have buns? I only eat the only bread I get at Zaxby's is Texas toast.
That's right. What is Texas toast? Is it just thick cut white bread that's buttered and garlicked up?
Yeah, it's all garlicky and buttery and just sweet goodness.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
It's not like a French bread or Cuban bread. I feel like it's just a thick slice of just good old fashioned Wonder Bread almost.
Yeah.
But
with it like an air of superiority.
That's right, because we're from Texas.
We're from Texas. Everything's bigger here. Yeah, we get it.
Check that out. I'll report back, but feel free to beat me to the punch and tweet at us and let us know how it goes. Also, the Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich is out there, too. I don't think you go wrong with either of these, to be honest with you. But I'll have to get the bacon taken off my Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue Filet. But nobody cares about that.
Nobody.
We're going to have an all-time great from Florida State join us here later on the program, Chris Hope. He is part of SAW Talk going down this Saturday, along with Peter Warwick. So that'll be fun. Those two gentlemen talking about the old days.
I think it's a reunion of the 1999 National Championship. Remember those days, folks? I hope you're alive to remember those days because those were some really, really good teams, and that was an incredible team. So 20-year reunion of that, I think, is on this weekend.
That's correct. You know, when we reconcile 2019, and we'll talk about the highs and lows of it, one of the lows will be for me is that when they did get that stop against Clemson in the first or second quarter, on that 4th and goal for the Tigers, that they didn't try to do the homage to Chris, to Winky, and to do a little play action.
Oh, yeah, go to Snoop, like they did the homage to Warwick Dunn against Virginia. Yeah, it's a missed opportunity there.
It was. I mean, Kendall just doesn't understand the culture at Florida State and our fans, what we like to see.
Right, absolutely. I'm sure that would have gone swimmingly. Like Blackman just turning his back to the defense for 2 seconds like Winky did on that play.
Do you remember where you were at when that play happened? I
know
that was 2000. That wasn't 99. That was 2000.
I was in Valdosta.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I was watching a Valdosta State football game. I was covering a Valdosta State football game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Blazers, right?
The Blazers. They were good that year, too. It was Chris Hatcher's first year. Kirby Smart was the defensive backs coach. Will Muschamp was the defensive coordinator.
Pretty good staff.
Yeah.
Pretty good staff. I was in Orlando at the time. I was at UCF, and I remember that was back in the days where you still had a tube TV. Like we had it was like a 19-inch TV, but it had a built-in VCR. That was the only TV we had in our apartment. And we had a couple buddies from Florida State that were down visiting us that week, which I don't know why they were here.
Why weren't you at the game?
Well, I was at UCF.
UCF.
Yeah. But I don't know why. One of my buddies that was at Florida State was dating a girl who went to UCF.
Because that was like a top 10 game.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, it was really good. And I remember they were so nervous. They're like, man, this is going to be a big game. And then it just, it wasn't. It was
at
like
all.
2013 Clemson.
Yeah.
But I always remember that, just the Houdini, just keeping the ball on his hip. Like, what just happened? What just happened?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, in the replay of it that's on YouTube, it was shot with a potato. Maybe, Florida State can do some digitizing, mastering, and get that video back to its full luster.
Yeah, maybe next year they can relive that play, the 20-year reunion of that team. Winky will come back and throw it to Snoop.
Yeah. So again, we'll talk to Chris Hope later on in the program. Let's talk about what's going on now. Corey, what do you guys talk about on headlines? Let me just crib everything off headlines.
Geez, a lot.
Hour number 2.
A lot.
Was it a good one? You feel it was cathartic? Was Ira being very a lot of patronization to you, and
that's
scoffing at those who want Willie gone and the buyouts?
That's
being
always
made?
the case. No, he just with Ira, he always wants. It's not that he's a contrarian, but he always wants to splash frustration and anger with reality, and so he's consistently doing that.
Right.
Always. So it's a lot of, man, they're terrible. Yeah, but what do you want to do? There was a lot of that for the first hour. The second hour was awesome because it was just questions. Yeah.
Which will be tomorrow on this show.
On this show, right. Yeah. But, yeah, the overriding theme is, that I think is, we lay out why not that we need to, advertise for that show, but we lay out why it's such a tough deal right now to think about going in another direction. It just doesn't happen a lot. It's 2 years. That's not a lot of time. But we also, my counter to that, and we don't have to get into this big picture conversation right now. I'm sure we'll be doing that later in the year. If Coburn and Thrasher are now convinced, and I'm not saying they are.
I don't think they are.
And I don't think they are. No. But if they were convinced this was a bad hire and he can't get us out of this, even if you get to a bowl, if you think that it's a bad hire, if you're convinced it's been a bad hire and it's not going to work out, why wait another year to fix a problem?
That's a good point.
Because
it's fair.
And that is a question I asked. Is okay. Say they go 6-6 this year and they make it to El Paso.
7-6 and they win it.
Sure, fine.
Great momentum.
We are all under the belief that unless he has a great season next year, he could go 8-4. He could go 9-3. Maybe not.
That's not a great season, though.
No,
right?
But if they're itching, I think they would be looking for a reason to make this change.
Okay.
And if you're already there, why delay it at all? Why delay a decision you want to make? You get to those points where you're like rooting against your team because it doesn't benefit you in the long run. Like you Texas A&M fans were with Sumlin. Like none of them. I mean, they were upset when they blew that lead to UCLA, but they also, as the season wore on, they wanted Sumlin to lose so he would be fired, and you never want to be in that position, man. And I always harken back to Will Muschamp. Like when he went 4-8 in 2013, there was no coming back from that. They should have fired him then. They just delayed it a year, and then they made a bad hire on top of that. They delayed it a year. But Ira's counter to that, and it's a very good one and a very astute one, is you better know who you're going to get before you do that. And also, it's the same people making this hire that made the last one. Mm-hmm. So what makes you think they're going to get this one right if they screwed this one up so bad? You basically need Willie to start winning games.
I mean, he said it. I think I said it in a post on War Chant. I've said it a few times on the podcast, parroting what Ira said. He mentioned it last year, and it just kind of flew under the radar. But he mentioned the fact that Florida State cannot afford Willie Taggart to not succeed, which is proof positive in the literal and figurative sense. Like, I mean, they need to actually win football games, but they also can't afford it for him to not be successful because of the financial repercussions of it's 85% of what's due on his contract. So if you decided, I think can you think both things? Can you think it's a bad hire, but also, I don't know, keep your fingers crossed that he will fix it because you cannot afford to monetarily bear the burden of letting him go?
Yeah, but that's such a hard sell to a passionate fan base. It's like, guys, sorry, but we're stuck with him. We want to get rid of him, but we're stuck with him. No, man, if you want to get rid of him, get rid of him. Right. And then I know I'm saying that, and it's not my money, but then you got to figure it out after that. If you don't think he's going to be your head coach in 2021, if you're adamant, and I'm not saying they are,
right.
But if you go 4-8, if he finishes this thing with a 4-8 record, which is very doable, they could go 1-4 in these next 5 games.
No, they'll beat Syracuse. Is terrible. I mean, Syracuse lost to NC State.
Sure. Yeah, no, I got you. I expect them to beat Syracuse. I expect them to beat Miami. But what if they don't? Florida State is not in a position where this guy can just go skate and not miss another bowl game for a second straight year, and then still keep his job. And Ira's counter to that was, what are you going to tell the head coach, that agent, who we all assume is Jimmy Sexton, for the next head coach when he says, wait a second, you guys said before Taggart even got here it was a real mess. It was a huge mess that he inherited. And then you only gave him 2 years? So what confidence do I have that you're going to give me more than that?
That's not. These guys all have egos. They think
that, and also
everyone looks around and is like, Florida State's a great job.
Yeah.
I could fix it.
And also I think the counter to that Coburn or Thrasher or whoever would say is like, look, fair, but understand we had not had a losing season in 4 decades. We have now had 2 in a row. That's unacceptable here. And I would hope you'd come in knowing that's unacceptable. We don't lose games around here. We've won more games in Florida State since 1980 than any program in the country. Mm-hmm. So we don't accept losing. And even if you're inherited a mess, it didn't look like it was getting better. And that was our issue. We know he inherited a mess. So did Mullen. Anyway. So it's basically I don't think anybody thinks that Taggart's not going to be here next year. But the seat will be scorching, and they've got to. You got to hope something turns around. You got to hope something turns around.
I don't want to diminish the quality or the importance of beating your rivals. Like if you beat Miami, it's just I feel weird to give a sort of make or break game when we've had 18 games up at this point.
Imagine if he loses to Syracuse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Can you come back from that? And I know that's weird to think. We're just assuming they're going to win this game. And they should. I don't even know what the spread is, but they should win this game. It's a backup quarterback. I think, right? Or maybe they might play DeVito, who's not any good either. Like, Syracuse will probably play 2 quarterbacks. They don't know who.
We'll find out Saturday.
But their offense
what Dino Baber said.
Their offense has not been very good. Their defense is not good. So Florida State should win this game.
10.5-point favorite, Florida State is.
But if you fiddle fart around and lose to Syracuse at home, and the boos will be deafening.
Homecoming, too.
HoCo. Man, I don't know. I don't know how you bounce back if you lose either of these next two games. I just don't. This schedule was a joke.
Well, actually, no. BC's after Miami. You're right. I'm sorry.
This schedule is a joke, man.
Well, no. Supposedly, this is they've played the hard. I don't know how that's even true. They said on the broadcast they've played the toughest schedule this year. They have the hardest schedule this season.
And Jeff brought this up on headlines. I'm just going to parrot headlines, guys. So you don't have to listen to that show.
It's fine. But do go to Spirit maybe.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely go to Birch. Definitely go to Birch.
Go to Birch.
But man. The 3 of the 4 losses they've had, you watch those games and said, gosh darn it, we got better players than they do. Florida State has better players than Boise, and they have better players than Virginia, and they most certainly have better players than Wake Forest. And as Jeff said, Jeff was like, I'm tired of watching us lose to teams when we have the better players. And that all goes back to coaching, and it does. So that's an issue. It's simple as that. And you're losing some of those really good players. So you're not going to have Cam Akers next year to give the ball through 30 times. You're not going to have Marvin Wilson stopping up the middle. You're not going to have Tamori and Terry catching most of the passes thrown his way, and sometimes staying in bounds. You're not going to have that. So what's it going to look like next year? That's the real issue, man. And and obviously we all know Urban Meyer's out there, the big name, the big fish. So you got to go make a run at him.
Unfortunately, we're not a video podcast. You couldn't see the sarcasm, deadpan on Corey's face.
Oh, boy.
I think somebody tweeted at us and asked us about that.
A guy told me
season,
when
man.
I was watching. It's nonsense.
He's going to go to Southern. He's leveraging to get that Southern Cal job quickly. He wants them to hurry up and get rid of Clay Helton. He went on Cowherd and talked about the Cowboys and Lincoln Riley, like how he should go there, and if they offered me the job, I'd go coach for the Cowboys. He's saying that whatever.
Why not go after Belichick? You know what I mean? If you're going to just throw out any name,
not like Sean McVay. I want someone a little more young and cuddly.
You want McVay? You want the Rams guy? That's not a bad idea. Or who? Shanahan even. I mean, he's undefeated in San Francisco for crying out loud. Yeah. Actually, I was at practice on Tuesday. When I was walking, I just talked to you under the stadium because it had been raining, and I was walking out, and a guy, a Florida State employee, not a football employee, but just an employee, is like, "Hey, man, they going to get Urban Meyer or what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, that's definitely going to happen." No, that was just nonsensical nonsense. Man, imagine that though. Ira swears he'd quit. he'd get in another line of work.
The group text with my brother and his buddies, he's just like, I'd rather keep losing. He's like, I don't want that guy.
I think that's the minority, and I think that opinion would change after about 14 games under Urban Meyer. You'd be like, well, this is fun again. All right, I see. Yeah, he's not the best guy. We understand that. That's fine. But no, there's just Urban Meyer's not coming to Florida State. But there are candidates out there, lots of them, good ones, bad ones, and we don't know. And that's another aspect of this when you want to talk about making a change. There's no guarantee. We've seen it now. Oregon was upset when Willie Taggart left. So was South Florida. And he was wanted by other schools. He was a hot commodity. It wasn't just Florida State picked him from he was an assistant at Appalachian State. This was somebody that a lot of people wanted. He was thought to be not a can't miss, not a surefire, but a very good coach for a place like this.
Like a guy on the rise, good fit, Florida guy, et cetera.
Absolutely not, obviously. At least not through whatever we're at, 19 games. So you just don't know, man. You just can't know. Nick Saban's a known commodity. Urban Meyer's a known commodity. Other than that, everybody else is just it's hypotheticals. It's guesswork. You know, I keep pushing for Venables if that was to happen, but we don't even know if he wants to be a head coach or if he'd come. But he's never been a head coach, so you don't know how he'd do it. It's a whole different animal when you're the head coach, man. People talk about Mark Stoops. Right. He was a good defense coordinator here, but would he be a good head coach here? Has he been good at Kentucky? He's been okay at Kentucky.
A 10-win season.
So there's no guarantee that you're going to there's no guarantee you're going to hit it out of the park with the next hire, but you also can't be scared to make that decision if it's facing you.
Scared money don't make money.
Absolutely.
I do wonder. I don't know. Did I already say this? But I do wonder, like when you put so much, like make or break game kind of thing. How often has that worked in the favor of a university? Like where there's been a coach under fire, and it's like, man, he really needs to win this game or else, and he does win it. Like, does he ultimately end up soaring and then achieving great heights in terms of like? If he beats Miami, like what does that really mean long-term, big picture? And then
you wonder if the well's already been poisoned so much that what could he do other than winning an ACC championship or having a great season in 2020, like a 10-win, literally 10 or 11-win season, which would come completely out of nowhere. But if that happened, what else? What could be done? Like in 8 wins, if he goes 8-4 next year, gets housed by Florida and Clemson again, man, they're going to want him gone. 8 wins won't be good enough. Yeah. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. If he wins 8 games next year, to me that's a really nice step up, especially considering all the people he lost. He would have had to change, but yeah. Anyway,
well, probably new defensive staff, which should help things. Maybe you think full time, actual hands-on involved. Jim Leavitt makes you better.
Maybe a new quarterback.
Yeah, I mean you're one hire away from changing things around in terms of a head coach, and then I think quarterback is like your next big thing. I mean, if Kendall stays and they can get De'Aaron King here, who knows what they look like if they get a guy. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who's to say that
is that a stopgap
Kendall's going to stay?
Is that a program changer? Yeah, imagine if Kendall left. And then what do you have? What hope do you have that you're going to be on your third offensive coordinator in 3 years? That's not going to fill people with hope and optimism that, you're down another coach again. You got to make another hire. Right. A lot of it's very smoky, murky, and kind of frustrating right now.
Yeah, we would all like to know the answers. You folks should check out War Chant, though. I think if it's not already up, it is up. There we go. Really good column by Ira titled on Willie Taggart's future and FSU football's complex situation, where he kind of dives into what's going on, historical precedent in terms of letting coaches go this quickly into a tenure, and things of that nature. It's definitely worth a check out. Look at it, read it, know it, love it. I mean, because he's mentioned that so many times about like after 2 years it's unprecedented, which I'm like, no, it's not. But
it's
then
not. It's 4, right? I think he said it's 4 times that it's ever happened.
But these are like horrendous. They've gone like
1 and 11.
Stuff.
I think all of them had at least 1 and 11 season.
But
what's the? I mean,
but I think there's only a few places like Florida State. Like if Kirby, I think if Jimbo would have gone 5-7 in 2010. And then he follows it up with what we're facing right now in 2011, there'd be real serious conversation about, dude, this guy can't. And that's a crazy thing that people are like, well, let's not forget that Jimbo lost to Wake Forest in 2011, and then looks what happened after that. It's like, well, because Jimbo is also coming off a 10-4 season in 2010, beat the freaking Gators, beat Miami terribly bad down in Miami, and also took it to an ACC championship.
Yeah, you could see the progress by leaps
Stop
and bounds.
using that guy. I get you all hate him, and I get it. It's fair. I'm in the minority. I'm wrong. I'm probably on the wrong side of history with that. Stop comparing the situations, please.
Well, you just talked about a column that they were compared a lot.
Were they?
Yeah.
Well, don't read Ira's column then, damn it.
No, but what I brought up to Ira, and I brought up multiple times on this show too, the difference, the 10-win season is a big deal. No, it wasn't a great season. They were coming off a 7-6 season, so it was a couple with 3-win improvement, which is fine.
But the wins that you improve, I mean, you beat Florida
for the first time in
6
forever.
years or something.
You went down there and hammered Miami pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
But also, you had just brought in, and then going into that 11 season, people were not through with Jimbo, but really, really worried after the Wake Forest loss. Mm-hmm. And that was it was a 3-game losing streak. The game at Clemson wasn't supposed to be that good. They turned out to be a good team that year, but at the time, Florida State was ranked. They weren't. Florida State was favored, and they got down pretty bad in that game, and they had a backup quarterback. And then Jimbo made a mistake of starting that backup quarterback again 2 weeks later after the bye against Wake. And then once he saw Trickett was struggling, then, now EJ's available. Well, if he was available, he should have started. Mm-hmm. It's a bad decision, and they lost. It was a gross loss, a bad loss. And at that point, I think they were 2-3 on the season. One of their wins was over Samford or something. So
did hang tough with Oklahoma for 4 quarters, though.
Yep.
So, but electrifying
our offensive guy with a good quarterback scored 1 touchdown in that game, I think. So there were a lot of questions about, okay, is this the right guy? Is it any different? Is it any better? Well, yeah, because he had just landed the number 1 class in the country in 2011. Literally the number 1 class in the country. You had Carlos Williams. You had Jernigan. You had Rashad Green. You had on and on, Wilder, Freeman, all those linemen, Trey Jackson, Bobby Hart, all those guys that were the cornerstone of the championship team were landed in that class. And even after that loss to Wake Forest, your commitment list featured Jameis Winston and Mario Edwards. There was excitement around what he was building because who he was bringing in. This guy is not doing that. Now, he also didn't have a 10-win season to sell, but part of that's on you, man. You have to win games to show these kids. I do think he could recruit at that level if he won games. But that's a chicken or egg thing, man. We got to see the chicken now. We know I think the egg would be golden and great, but the chicken has to produce. And right now the chicken sucks. The chicken doesn't win anything. The chicken's just strolling around drunk on chicken seed or whatever they eat. I mean, it's nuts what we're watching. So that's the main difference, in my opinion, between the two. And I also think he had a better staff. Jimbo did. I just think he put together a better staff. Even that staff, he knew what he wanted out of that staff. I'm bringing these ultimate recruiters. He got Mark Stoops. He had a good defensive staff. And I'm bringing some ultimate recruiter guys. We're going to load up this roster.
Damian Craig, James Coley.
That has not happened at all.
Eddie Grand.
Well, Eddie Grand too. Yeah, that has not happened at all with this current coaching staff, and that's why if Willie Taggart had like 4 or 5 stars in this class, people would be like, okay, man, we're taking our lumps, but it's coming.
Right. No, that's a very good point that no one really seems to be talking about.
You don't have it, man. I mean, Jimbo signed. We could go look it up. I would guess Christian Jones, Christian Green, Jernigan, Wilder, Carlos Williams. I mean, he must have signed in those first 2 or 3 classes. He must have signed 8 or 9 or 10 5-star guys. Willie signed 1,
2. I think Akeem is a 5-star as well. So Woodby and Akeem. Akeem, though, a guy that was offered at a Jimbo Fisher camp and committed for a long time, but Willie did hang on to him, so he does get credit.
Yeah, he gets credit for that. That's fine. I mean, he gets credit for that. But yeah, Jimbo was loading the roster in his first 2 or 3 years,
saturating it with playmakers,
with NFL guys, with just great players. And you look at who Willie's brought in, and you're just not overwhelmed. And then you look at these recruiting rankings, and you're like, all right, I mean, whatever they're ranked now, 12th or 13th, it's nothing to sneeze at. They're bringing in players, but are these program changers? Are these guys that are going to flip the script?
Man, 2011, Trey, Timmy, Josue, O'Leary, Kelvin, Tank, Bobby Hart, Devontae, Rashad, Terrence Smith, Tyler Hunter. Good grief. Lawrence Stample, Carlos. LaMarcus Brutus. I don't know why I said LaMarcus Brutus. Represent Port St. Lucie, though.
And I think Menelik Watson was James Wilder.
Jr.
Yeah, and I think Menelik Watson was the 12 class, along with Jameis and along with Mario Edwards, who was like the number 1 or number 2 player in the country. So that's what Jimbo, even after they lost to Wake Forest, riding home. Because I remember that distinctly. I remember being on the road, and there were all these rumors that Mario Edwards was now looking around because they were worried. His dad had even said that, I think, which you understood. You just lost to Wake Forest. But you know what? He stayed in the boat, and after that Wake Forest game, Florida State won 6 in a row, all with their starting quarterback. So you could point to, man, we got our quarterback hurt, so that's why we lost. And there was hope and optimism even amidst some of the struggles because of the young players that were joining the program. And you don't feel that hope. Like if Taggart left tomorrow, you wouldn't be, oh gosh, how are we going to salvage this class? This great class, I hope it doesn't fall apart. You're just not there. It's not a great class.
And isn't that kind of the irony that I hate to keep talking about this like in some sort of absolute terms, it's not. I mean, I think both Corey and I think that that it's more than likely. I mean, it's almost improbable to think that he would not be here in 2020.
No, it would have to take going off the rails.
Yeah.
Everything has context and everything can change, but a 1-4, 2-3 finish to this season against these opponents might constitute going off the rails.
Not sure where I was going to go with that point.
You don't think that we all think Willie's gonna be here next year, but you gotta start making strides on the recruiting trail, man. And right now it's hard to sell. You're not giving these guys a reason to say yes. They might want, more than anything, want to come play for you. They really might. But are you going to be there when they're a sophomore? And are they going to win games? That's what they're having to deal with. And they got all theyese people in their ears saying, "Well, we're not. Well, look what they're doing at Florida." Imagine recruiting Alabama and Florida State going after the same kid right now. No shot. Florida State went in Alabama and got Jameis Winston. We're about to talk to Chris Hope. Back when Florida State was Florida State, they went into South Carolina and got him in bowl wears. Florida State whenever they wanted and got him. And now Florida State's struggling just in the region, just between Georgia and Florida, of keeping guys or getting guys. And they'd have no shot if they're – I don't think they'd have much of a shot with many kids that are down to Clemson, Florida, and Florida State. And that's who you want to be recruiting against. So that's got to change. And I think the guy's an excellent recruiter. I do. He's proven it. But you got to have something to sell. It's like being a car salesman and only having, 1992 Honda Civics. What can you do with it? You got to turn those into 93 Nissan Sentras. Right? That was my second car, actually, was a 1993 Nissan Sentra. It was a limited edition,
Nice.
Blue, power steering.
Okay.
Which was nice. Because my first car did not have that, or power windows. So that's how old I am, folks. You think most of the people listening to this have ever had to roll down a car window, like manually?
Yeah, I think so.
You think most people do? Because
Yeah.
I feel like we get some youngsters that have never, because they haven't put that in cars in probably 20 years. Yeah. So, yeah, so it was a wonderful time back then. Just
especially when you had to lean over like to the passenger window to like. Do
that number. I got to talk. He wants to ask me a question. Well, let me lean over and.
You kids don't even know. You have no idea what we had to go through.
Pretty remarkable that we made it, but we did.
Absolutely amazing. Before we take a break and bring Chris on, we did speak to the offense. We spoke to Kendall Browse as well as Ryan Roberts, Trayshawn Harrison, Tamorian Terry, and Cole Minshew.
I wrote a story about Darius Washington.
All right, yeah.
Just them. They have nice things to say about him, so we wrote about that.
Yeah, why not just go full Champs Bowl the rest of the way? Just throw all the young guys out there, man. All the young guys on the offensive line. Let's build for something.
I don't think my man
2020.
I don't think my man has that enough confidence to think that it's a guarantee I'm going to be here in 2020 to do that. You can't be sacrificing.
Did they start
present for the future?
Did they start all those guys, or was it a second half? Was it a halftime
thing? No, they started them, and so it was guys that had never played the whole season. It was Jackson, Matias, maybe Bobby Hart too.
I think Bobby Hart did.
And then remember
who was ahead of them? I can't even remember.
Datko was on that team. That's the only one that ever really comes. I mean, I can't. Ryan McMahon maybe. I know Datko was there. Faircloth. I don't know. A lot of crazy names. But what I remember is watching that game, because the way that 11 season ended was they lost to Virginia on the Burt Reed nonsense, and I think they scored one touchdown in that game. They just could not block. And then the next game they beat Florida despite having 80 yards of total offense. So at that moment, Jimbo's like, well, obviously I'm not going anywhere. I've won 8 games. I've won 18 in 2 years. We've got to we've got to get these guys ready for 12. So he started all the true freshmen, and against Notre Dame, they were obliterated in the first half. They had no chance against. That was a pretty good Notre Dame defense.
Zebri Sanders.
Oh, there you go.
That's one of them.
So they had
Spurlock?
Sanderson, maybe Spurlock. There you go. Ronnie Sanderson. Would that have been one?
I always didn't know if it was Ronnie or just Ron.
It was Ronnie.
Yeah, it was Ronnie.
And then they got obliterated by Notre Dame in the first half of that game. Just could not block him. EJ was running for his life. I think EJ ended up breaking his leg in that game. But the second half, they started to get a little better. They got their feet wet. And then 2012, they were ready to roll. Ready to roll. Plus, they got Menelik Watson. That was a nice addition.
Buckle up, Syracuse. Here it comes. So, anything catch your intro? You mentioned you wrote a story. It's on Warchant.
I did. I wrote about the Washington kid, and I wrote the column on Monday about the quarterbacks, and just that I don't. And we'll see. I'm assuming it'll be Blackman. Briles had nothing but positive things. Not nothing but positive, but said a lot of positive things about Blackman too. Now again, he wouldn't say anything. They're not going to say anything negative. They're not going to throw the kid under the bus. But I thought Briles was okay. He said he thought he made some good decisions. But in the one question I asked that I really am interested in, I might write about this. I don't know. Was like, they keep saying they got to learn how to finish. Well, how do you do that? You can't do that on a practice field. Right. It's just not pressure. You can't learn how to finish on a practice field. And I asked Briles about that because he specifically, like Willie, was at a program that historically was terrible. And then seemingly overnight, and I know it wasn't, but seemingly overnight, all the players started believing they could win again, or win, period. And they turned into not a juggernaut, but a top 15 type program.
They flirted with the playoff.
They were a very good program. Baylor had been awful our whole lives, and then all of a sudden was very, very good. And how does that happen? How do they start believing? How do you get them to finish? And he said it might be as simple as just one play sparking it, like one game-winning, game-saving play. Maybe against Miami, maybe against Florida.
Like a pick six against Samford, maybe.
Yeah, our Terry with the big 75-yard touchdown against Boston College. That seemed to really but I do think there's some validity to that, man. They've got to they don't believe I don't truly think they believe they're going to win these games late. I also think they have a quarterback that spirals in big-time moments. I think I wrote about it. There is a thing is caring too much. And I think he cares so much and he doesn't want to let himself down or his teammates down that it almost paralyzes him. And he's just not good in big moments and hasn't been. You have one quarterback that's played 2 fourth quarters and they're 2-0 in those games. You have another quarterback that's played the other 5 and they're 1-4. And the one was against Louisiana Monroe where they went to overtime because he threw an interception and that kind of fell apart in the second half. That to me tells you everything you need to know about when it's winning time. That's a big enough sample size, in my opinion. I'm not putting it all on James Blackman at all. There's plenty of blame to go around.
If Cam doesn't fumble against Boise, if Trayshawn makes a block against Wake Forest, maybe they win those games. If James Blackman, if Derwin James isn't put on a stupid position against Miami in 17, he beats Miami on a nice fourth quarter route.
The Blackman in 17, he had a late touchdown drive to beat Wake Forest, and we can scoff at that all we want. But 2 years later, they ain't doing that. Throwing to Tate for the game-winning touchdown. I think he did the same thing against Duke that year. Again, scoff all you want. They're wins on the road that this program hasn't had since. And then the Miami game, he won. I mean, he did enough to win that game. It's this James Blackman. I don't know what the difference is, but it's this James Blackman that just seems to be kind of just frenetic and frenzied in late games. And, he missing Terry down the sideline and dropping the ball. Just simply dropping the ball. Yeah. The Virginia game, the Boise game, they didn't do anything. I think if Akers doesn't fumble, they're probably at least going to get a field goal out of that, you would think. Maybe. But we don't know for sure. Certainly not with this kicker. You can't assume any points were coming off that, but that was a really big fumble. So it's not Blackman's fault, but you've got to learn how to win. You've got to learn how to win, and they don't seem to be – the only way you can do that is to actually do it. Because I do think when it gets late, man, they think that it's not going to go well. I do.
Why though? Because you mentioned that they're more talented than Boise, they're more talented than Virginia, they're more talented than Wake
panic.
Forest.
I think they
like,
panic.
Why would you not have confidence in those? I know because people say, well, because they've never done it, Aslan. Well, it's not like Wake Forest is some behemoth that always closes games out. It's not like Virginia puts nails in coffins. Like, what is it about either? I mean, is it people thinking the way that Willie's comportment is on the sideline? Does that bleed over to people that are playing in the game, or do other coaches coach tight? That is a curious thing to me to kind of indict this team as being of like scared or nervous in the fourth quarter. I get it if it's Clemson and it's a one-possession game and you're in Death Valley and it's like, man, they're defending champs and you kind of choke it. But, I mean, to be going up against teams like Wake, Virginia, Boise State, I mean, talented, well-coached teams, whatever that means. It's crazy that you would think Florida State would have would freeze up in those moments.
Yeah, but that seems to be what happens.
Hey, let's walk down memory lane, the good old days.
Okay, can't wait.
Let's bring on Chris Hope. He'll be right on with us right after this. It's Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Knolls since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back to Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey's here as well still. That should be enough for most people, but if you need more, may we introduce and welcome in a national championship winner, 4-year letterman for Florida State, 12-year illustrious career in the NFL. He is Chris Hope. He will be a guest speaker at Saw Talk going down this Saturday. He'll be in town, but he's with us right now here on Wake Up War Chant. Chris, thanks so much for taking some time out. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Chris, I don't know, when was the last time you were back in Tallahassee? And I don't know, it's got to be kind of crazy, I guess, to think about you coming to town to celebrate the 20th anniversary of, just one of the greatest teams, obviously, in program history, but maybe in all of college football history.
It is a surreal moment, to have the opportunity to be on one of the best football teams in all of college football and the first team. And I don't think a team has done that since we've done it, to go wire to wire, number one in the rankings from the preseason to the end of the season. So it's a pretty remarkable thing that we did that year in 1999. But to look back and see how 20 years have quickly went by, it seems unreal. So I'm super excited to get back in Tallahassee. I'm always excited to go back into the 850 area code where I was just loved and appreciated by so many fans and coaches and professors. But to be back with my teammates, I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and it just reminds us we're all getting old. We're all old, man. We're all either old or getting old. And I remember you coming out of high school. You were a huge deal. Not that Florida State signed defensive backs back then that weren't. Y'all were all prep star All-Americans that came to Florida State back in the late 90s. But what was it like? I think you were the number 1 or number 2 defensive back in the country, the number 1 safety in the country. Could have gone, I'm assuming, anywhere in the country. Your first practice at Florida State, you're lining up against, well, we know who you're lining up against in that receiving core when you got there. What was that like? Was there ever any doubt, even early on, like, man, am I good? I mean, obviously you turned out to be very, very good. But was there ever any doubt the first year, the first couple practices, like, holy moly, these guys are good?
I think it was more of I'm one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
It was that reality that kind of woke me up. But at the same time, being a fan of so many of those guys that I just luckily and fortunate enough to be teammates with, was sometimes, you had to pinch yourself, and I think that's where some guys in today's time have lost the value or the sense of having the opportunity to play at a prestigious university like a Florida State. We felt like it was a blessing or a gift to us. We didn't feel like the school owed us anything. We felt like we owed it to the school. And that's why we were so humble and so appreciative of our opportunity the play and where they're going to go. So going to school and being teammates with Peter Warwick or, Sebastian Janikowski or Travis Minor, Chris Winkie, all those guys that you watch from afar, me being from South Carolina, reading about these guys from all over the world and having the opportunity to call them my teammates and my friends or my brother. It was a very humbling experience, but you quickly had to pick up your game or you would have got left behind back in those days. So it was a opportunity for me to challenge myself and to push myself to become the best version of me.
And you played, you played in 3 national championship games, which is just nuts to think about. Really could have and probably should have won the other 2 as well. The defense certainly did their part in both those games, I should say. But when you got to Florida State, the goal wasn't just to obviously win an ACC title. It was to win all of them. It win the ACC title, win the national title, win every game. How do you keep that? How do you keep that hunger, man? You watch. Nobody does it now except maybe Alabama. How were y'all always so hungry, even after success? How were y'all so hungry in 2000? Why was the 2000 defense so dominant when y'all? I know you had great players, but it seemed like it was a mindset too, man. What led to that? How did that happen? Why was there no complacency?
Well, it started from the top. It's funny that you asked that question because myself and Peter Warwick were just talking about this not too long ago. It started from the top. Coach Bowden, Mickey Andrews, who was probably the best defensive coordinator in all of college football, Coach Amato, just guys that I personally worked with on the defense every day. They worked us. I mean, most people don't believe how hard we worked. And you said it. We were all 5-star All-Americans coming out of high school, but they worked us as if we had zero talent. And I think that's what kept us so humble and so hungry and so motivated. And we also had so much talent around us because we were so deep. You couldn't afford not to come with your A game to practice because you could have easily lost your position to someone that played behind you because we were just that good. But, from year to year, that was just the standard. I remember my first meeting as a rookie, freshman, Coach Bowden pulled out our schedule. We used to have those schedules, would have the seniors' photos on the schedule and then all of our games. And he went by every game that was a home game and put a W. And then he went by every ACC game and put a W. And then he went by every he said we had to win. We had to dominate the state of Florida. We had to be the state champs. And he put a W. And he said we only have one game to win. And we don't know who the opponent will be, but we just have to win the national championship. And right there, being 17 years old, I knew I had made the right decision on where I wanted to go to school because I came for education, to play at the highest level in college football, to win national championships, and to one day get drafted. And that was the tone that was set from the day I stepped on that campus.
National champion, Super Bowl champion, 12-year NFL veteran Chris Hope joining us here on Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. I think everybody always will kind of hold you synonymous with the 1999 team. Was 99 the most fun you ever had playing football?
99 was amazing. I mean, we were almost kind of like a created team. Who has the opportunity to have the best player in college football to come back? He was already the most dominant player in college football the year before, and he decides to come back. And then we have Laveranues Cole. I mean, we had a cheat code in, as some of the younger generation would say on some of these PlayStation games. But we really embraced every game. We challenged ourselves every game, and we challenged each other. So it created a brotherhood and a camaraderie that made it so fun to go to practice. And the road trips are fun. And everything about that season just lined up perfectly. And that's why we ended up undefeated from the beginning of the season to the end. To say it was my funnest year of football, I've had the experience of the fortune of being on a lot of good teams, but I will say that was probably one of the most talented teams I've ever been on.
And man, I think I watched those teams really closely back then. I really think the 2000 defense was maybe the best defense in school history. I mean, you guys were just loaded. And You lost the national championship game and you gave up one touchdown to Oklahoma. Like, it wasn't the defense's fault. Even after 99, going into that 2000 season, losing Peter Warrick, were you thinking, man, we might actually be better on this side of the ball? I think you lost Corey Simon that year too, and you still were just dominant.
I think we were more experienced. I was only a sophomore the year we won the national championship, and we had some other young guys. That 2000 team, we were loaded and we were experienced. I think our secondary had started, myself, Gibson, and Tate Cody and Cleavon Thomas. We had started, 2 seasons together back to back, and we had senior leadership, we had great coaching, obviously, and we had young talent and guys like Anquan Bolin and Donnell Dockett and Travis Johnson and all those guys. So we were loaded with experience, youth, and a great coaching staff. So it was a great team. I look back at that game. That's one of my regrets. I remember maybe the first or second series of the game, I broke on a pass, and I could have easily picked it off and ran it back for a touchdown. And I think that probably wins that game because, again, we didn't let them move the ball on us at all. But I think, that dropped interception kind of changed the momentum of the game. I still live with that regret to this day. But we had a very, very polished machine that year. And I wouldn't say the best defense because I think about the years where Peter Boulware and Renard Wilson and all those guys had all those sacks. That was a pretty amazing defense as well, but we were right up there.
Man, and just, Aslan, listen to those names, man. We're talking to Chris Hope, and he's talking about Darnell Dockett, Travis Johnson, Tay Cody. I mean, goodness, man, what a time to be a Florida State fan back then. Maybe we'll get back there one day, Chris. That's what we're hoping. I did want to ask you about 2001, your senior year. You had just played in 3 national championship games, and obviously you lose a lot of players, but everybody thinks it's just going to keep rolling. How did the locker room change midway through that season, if at all? How does losing, and again, you went on to have a great professional career as well where you won a lot of games, but that was a disappointing season. How did the locker room bounce back from losses? What was the mood like? Because you guys weren't used to it. And obviously what we're dealing with now at Florida State, it's a lot of losing, way too much losing. How did you guys deal with it, and what can these guys do in this locker room to change the culture?
Well, back in those days, if we played a close game, I can remember coming back into Tallahassee from an away game where we barely got by or we didn't play our best. And the city would almost feel dead. The campus would be dead. It seemed like the students didn't go to class when we didn't play well. So I can only imagine being there and going through what they're going through now because our standard hasn't changed. And unfortunately, we're not the same team as we were in the past. But, my senior year was a disappointing season. We lost 1 or 2 games. One of them better be the national championship. and that was the standard we set. So to lose, I think we lost 3 games my senior year or maybe 3 or 4. That was very disappointing. I mean, there was times I couldn't sleep at night, because I felt like I was letting the standard that we set and that those players set that came before me down. And, like Coach Andrews used to say, we were taking bricks out of the building that we had nothing to do with. Those guys that played before us built the building and we were taking bricks out of it. So it was a very disappointing season, but I think we had so many things go wrong that season. Anquan Bolden hurt his knee doing training camp. Jared Jones didn't qualify, or maybe Fabian Washington didn't qualify, the quarterback. I mean, we had so many different things go. Robert Morgan hurt his knee. And we were young on defense. All of a sudden, we just grew so young, but it was no excuse. I think I should have stepped my game up even more and been a better leader, but we found a way to still savage and have a good season, but not a season to what the Florida State Seminoles were accustomed to. So we made the most out of it, but I think to get back to where we were back in those days is going to take discipline. I think that set us apart more than anything. I can think about any team I've ever played on. the way we worked and how disciplined we were on both sides of the ball, you know, we only became undisciplined by being too physical. And that's not always a bad thing. But to get back where we were in those days is going to have to take discipline. And I don't know what that looks like with today's athlete, because I know it's only so much you can do, and I know the rules are a little different, but I think they need the good old mat drills to come back out. I think all that stuff needs to come back, because that's what set us apart from the rest of the teams in the country during those days.
Yeah, you're not in the minority when it comes to that. I think a lot of fans want to see a return to that toughness that Mickey instilled in you guys and that you helped carry on. Chris, I mean, it's crazy to hear you kind of talk about, how hard you took your senior year and the ownership you took for it. But, obviously you had a great career in the NFL. And even beyond that, just how well you did as a student athlete, truly embodying both of those sort of titles. For you, how were you able to, really dial in and be such a skilled and talented football player, but also we always hear about you got to focus on your academics. It's academics first. You got to lean on your degree. Man, you played in the league for 12 years. You probably could have been fine without even having a degree with that kind of career. But for you, what were you able to accomplish, and how were you able to accomplish being so accomplished at both of those sort of roles?
Well, I've always, I played the game of football realizing that it had to come to an end sooner or later, whether I played 12 years or whether I played 4 years. And some guys don't even get to play that long. Some guys get hurt in high school, some get hurt in college. But I always had the mindset from a very young age that whatever I do, I'm going to try to be the best or do my best at whatever it is, whether it's, tying my shoes, whether it's cleaning my room or making my bed. I always strive to be the best that I could be. And I really don't think you can separate playing a game and how you live your life or how you do your schoolwork. I preach to young kids all the time about being a true pro. I couldn't be an all-pro safety or Pro Bowl safety in the NFL and be a deadbeat dad or, a deadbeat husband. I couldn't separate the two. I couldn't separate trying to be perfect on the football field and not trying to have perfect attendance in the classroom, or trying to be perfect with my grades and trying to make straight A's. So it was a mindset that I set for myself at a very young age, and I've strived to continue that in everything that I've done, regardless if I'm on the football field or not.
Chris, what have you transitioned to in your post-football playing career, man? All those degrees you got, all those great academic marks you set at Florida State, how have you parlayed that now into the second phase, I guess, of your life and career?
So the most important thing is I've tried to be a great role model for my kids. That's probably the toughest assignment I've ever had. I would rather tackle Jerome Bettis or try to cover Peter Warwick than try to be a parent. No one told me how hard it is to be a parent, but, that has obviously been my number one goal. And my faith in God has been the top of that, because without that, I wouldn't have anything. And then from that, just trying to share my wisdom and plant good seeds in the next generation. I wrote a book called Pros, P-R-O-S, Parents Relying on Their Seeds. And I've tried to go around the world and go around the state to state to whomever is willing to listen, to try to help them create healthy boundaries between ourselves and those that we love the most. So many of us chase success in life, but we really don't know what to do when we get it and what responsibilities comes with success. I think my book explains the different scenarios and different obstacles that we go through in that pursuit of success. And when we obtain it, how we can create those healthy boundaries to where we're still having those same people that have motivated us to become successful in our corners, and have those people that we love the most still on our sides to celebrate the success that we've obtained. I think so many times, and not just professional athletes' careers or entertainers, we become so successful and we have all these things that from the outside looking in, everyone would die for. But in the inside, we're lonely, we're resentful, we're hurt, and we have a handful of great relationships, but most of my relationships are broken. And, you know, if I would go back and tell myself as a young kid that I would become this professional athlete and live out my dreams, but not have those that I love the most with me to celebrate it with, I wouldn't have taken that deal. And you know, you look around from entertainers, actors, you know, all across the board, people that have become successful, more than likely their lives behind the scenes are destroyed. And that's the answer that I think my book is trying to answer, trying to prepare those who are chasing success. We all are chasing some form of success, but to know what to do with it when you have it or when you obtain it is the key.
Man, one of the truly great ones, folks. Chris Hope, he and Peter Warwick will be doing the sod talk. That's 1:30 under the tents and the shade trees next to the sod cemetery between the Bobby Bowden statue and Dick Hauser Stadium. It begins at 2 p.m., 90 minutes before kickoff. You can get some autographs and stuff at 1:30. Thanks to you, Chris. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you, folks, so much for listening to Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. Renegade Express going down. Post your questions over on the Tribal Council.
If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain or ride dune buggies through the desert. Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.